Well, Mike, I mean, it's not just limited to China. This is happening in the United States with these extreme weather conditions. I mean, everything is pointing to the problems with global warming, and why it is such an important, issue that right now, and why it needs global attention rather than just regional. But from Beijing, you are definitely seeing the mobilization very smoothly of rescue efforts. This is in stark contrast in other countries where it's often very difficult and there's a lot of bickering between local and federal authorities. So at this time, it's refreshing to see you're starting to see a lot of outpouring of support. Already, almost 2 billion renminbi has been raised by private companies and state companies to support relief efforts in the area, in addition to a massive effort by the Chinese government to address what is, hopefully, an outlying situation.
Yeah, the government committing money, as you said, private donations coming in as well. But talk to us about just how dire it is right now, because we just heard from Li Jinhua, people doing without communication tools like the internet, their phones out, electricity is spotty, there's fear of food shortages. What are the greatest concerns this morning as you wake up there in China?
Well, the greatest concerns is that, as you said earlier, the worst is yet to come. They're anticipating more rainfall. This is going to overload the existing system. You cannot prepare for something like this that is completely beyond the kind of historical reach of history. So you can do the best you can, and what they're doing is they're mobilizing the army, all provincial forces. They're doing what is necessary. They're rushing equipment down there. They don't want to turn on the electricity prematurely because of the risk to individuals of being electrocuted. But they're going to do the best they can. I mean, there's no easy answer to these things. Emergency response is basically it's a checklist of things that you do in order to make things better. But the hearts and hopes of the nation, and I'm sure the world, are going to everybody who is experiencing these extreme weather conditions and difficulties.
Einar, it seems like yesterday, but it was last August when we had the footage of Premier Li Keqiang touring Chongqing after that disastrous flooding season last year. And again, that was talked about as being historic at the time. I was reading the Washington Post online tonight. They say the Chinese national record in Zhengzhou may be the most prolific short-term rain event to ever affect a major international city. So I want to revisit something you talked about, which is climate change. It is apparent out there. It is real. And we also know that the United States and China really led the rest of the world in the Paris Accords. But the two countries have their frictions. Is this an area where the two of them can come together and actually make some headway?
Well, it's an extinction level event if we do not do something about it. The scientists have spoken quite clearly. This is a priority. It's something that has to be done. It's kind of puzzling why the U.S. is concentrating so heavily on smaller matters when, literally we've hit the iceberg and it's time to start figuring out what to do with the Titanic. Rearranging the deck chairs and asserting who's a bigger power is not going to solve this issue. So climate change, the global hunger situation, the economics overall, the pandemic, these are all things that are crying out for world leadership. And that means that China, the U.S., and the rest of the world has to come together instead of fighting.